entire swaths of industries are going to be wiped out for how fast AI is moving.
So you run a commercial with two people who look like they may have been fired from Starbucks for being too woke. Do you know what I mean? And then telling...
You're not wrong.
I think people are very ignorant as to how good Facebook is because Instagram makes them feel cooler. Facebook doesn't seem cool. And words speak, data screams. And that's why you always want to look at your data and not your preconceptions. All of the messaging we've been getting the last 10 years, especially to some of the younger generations, be fragile. Feel like you're entitled.
That's not the message. But it's
okay,
it's
will you
the
tell us
outcome.
what you think the message is?
I don't have to agree with the ideology that you're putting out there, especially when your goal is to sell a bottle of fucking ketchup.
What a brand, what a brand, what a brand, what a mighty good brand. Say it again now. What a brand, what a brand, what a brand, what a mighty good brand.
Welcome back to another week of Art of the Brand. We're continuing to shake up our format.
No, we're shaking up the marketing world is what we're doing.
We
are challenging conventional wisdom, saying what most people are scared to say, and making stuff happen for founders and CEOs.
So today we're going to talk about AI creativity and personal brands. We're going to talk about TV commercials. Have they become a way to
socially engineer the population?
Control the mind of the people? We're going to talk about building anti-fragile brands. We're going to talk about founder brands and why they matter. I've got an in the news segment, and then we're going to break down some hot or not.
One of us is going to praise Blake Lively, and one of us is going to rip her apart. You guys guess who that's going to be at the end.
Who's praising her?
Let's go.
All right, so let's talk about AI creativity and personal brands. We've got a crazy stat here. We think 60% of marketing jobs are going to be at risk in the next 18 months. It's just like a serious time to wake up and listen up.
I think it could be one of the greatest disruptions to the workforce in the last 100 years, and I think people are not taking it seriously enough and aren't researching its potential impact in their industry. Their heads in the sand. They're distracted by AI, but they don't know what it can do to their industry.
Well, it's complicated to unpack because AI in marketing/branding is kind of being looked at as this amazing tool that no one's talking about. There's enhancements to it, right? Like we're talking about copywriting in AI. You're seeing a lot of like Canva tools and like it's definitely obviously greatly entering into marketing and branding because for the most part, marketing and branding is like ideation, which is kind of easy for ChatGPT to come into. But what's complicated about it is we're not talking about the jobs that are going to be lost, especially when we just watched The Diary of a CEO. And in one of the segments, he talks about this platform, which I have pulled up actually, called Replit, which effectively through AI will completely build for you like an entire shop, like a Shopify shop that can
website,
take payments,
everything.
like full apps, like SaaS-based platforms, like entire swaths of industries are going to be wiped out for how fast AI is moving.
By way of comparison, we can put up the photo, but it's there's a picture of a New York City street that is full of horse and buggies. And then from the exact same vantage point, there's a picture of it 13 years later. And there's no horse and buggies, it's all cars. That's 100 years ago or whatever, before we had computers. The pace of change today is 10x or 1,000x of that.
Yeah.
So understanding that pace of change now is so much faster, once you introduce AI that can build websites, put Shopifys on it, do graphic design, write copy, think of how many jobs in the marketing space can be replaced by AI or will be replaced. And so you have to ask yourself, how do I remain relevant in this market?
A lot of these big agencies are obsolete. Like they have too many bodies. They have too big of a footprint. They have too big of an office. And you're going to see a lot of these C-suites all breaking off to all become these like boutique individual proprietorships. And there's going to be so much more competition.
So to me, the currency is going to be creativity. We've heard of a lot of layoffs in the big agencies where you're not really creative. You're just moving product or just doing things. And what I think is interesting is AI can produce things that seem new to you, but really all it's doing is looking at what's happened before.
Yeah.
And then generating something. So human creativity is where we generate a new idea or a new question. And that's going to be the value that you can bring to the table in this industry and to clients who need creativity, because a lot of the founder companies and the CEOs that we help, they're being serviced by marketing agents that are using 80% AI right now to do all of the work, and they're not getting creativity.
There's two camps.
Yeah.
There's because we had a team member come from one of the bigger agencies, and I asked her, I'm like, how much of your job are you using ChatGPT? And she's like, zero. Like, they completely frown against it. Like, because ChatGPT can also be so reliable when you're a big business and you've got tons of employees, it is a scary oversight when you've kind of risen through the ranks in like an old school model and you're at the top of this business, and like ChatGPT can make a ton of mistakes. People can become over reliant on it. There's a lot of like visual cues that it's ChatGPT, and if you did an RFP for $1 million and the brand catches wind that like their account manager was using all ChatGPT, like that could be a brand killer for these huge agencies. So there's two camps to it.
I think the legacy institutions are holding on tight. You see it in law too. Like, they're trying to hold on tight to, I have relationships, this is how we do things. And I think we're going to talk about it later when we talk about TV commercials. Like, we're moving away from the old model of what an advertising agency did, right? You just don't create a cheesy restaurant commercial or to sell a cheap product. Like, that model is moving. I think they're holding on to it because they have big contracts, but soon people are going to realize that they're not getting value for their $1 million.
But this is also where it's like complicated too. I think there's going to be a massive changing of the guards. Like, there's brands that have continued to do well or do good enough based on really well executed strategy of the past, like Heinz ketchup we're going to talk about, right? Like Heinz did such a great job advertising, messaging, and positioning. They had great brand for many, many, many years. There's now this kind of like over-reliance through these legacy brands who just, because they have market share and market domination, they have money, but they don't want, they're not, their headspace isn't in the place to like be strategic, be innovative, be creative. So they're just going to that like reliant model of like old school agency. Like, there's no one in that cog that's looking for like outside of the box strategic thinkers. Like, they just want someone that's going to just go and like do what they say, copy and paste, do the same boring stuff.
I think why you're so in demand is people now know you as a human and they want to work with your brand. Like, they know you. In a world where AI is going to replace a lot of the humans, if you're in the industry, in the marketing industry or any industry, you have to develop your own personal brand so that people can relate to you and want to work with you, because that's the only thing that's going to save us in this market, is having personal relationships.
Well, investing in a personal brand is also just important for a ton of different reasons. Number one is so many agency owners, if we're going to talk about the agency space, but also any industry, are not investing in their future self, like their future potential. And if every industry is going to become more competitive because AI is coming in to take away more jobs, and it's still going to be humans hiring humans, you don't want to be creating a personal brand when we're in a massive crisis and everyone is trying to enter into the space. But two, outside of that, a lot of professionals in all industries are resisting ChatGPT or AI because they think that they are the best. It's their expertise. They're arrogant. They're not leveling up their humanness by being like plugged in. And that's what you and I talk about. Like, why would you want to hire a human that's not maximizing their time on stupid things? Like, you're not hiring me to type out the document. You're hiring me because of all of my experience, everything I've read, my perspective on life. Like, what I'm putting into the machine is not what you're putting into the machine. So the fact that the machine is typing it out and my brain is scanning it and reading it and saying, no, that's not correct. I want this angle. I want this approach. It's that input that I can't train somebody on.
So I think what AI is going to usher in is a phase of the return to the generalist.
Yeah.
For like the last 20 to 30 years, everybody has told you specialize, specialize, specialize. What AI allows you to do is access the specialized knowledge you couldn't get if you didn't specialize.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's going to come down to being able to understand a complex system. And it's almost like you can't plan, if you're going to surf, for example. Brett Weinstein gave this example. I love this thinker. You can't chart the route you're going to surf if you're a surfer. You can't plan the whole way from the wave to the thing. You have to be somebody who can understand a complex system and respond to things as they go down, and then you surf the wave. And in an AI world where we have a complex system of things changing so rapidly, if you're a specialist, you're going to get left behind because everybody will move fast. You have to be able to see the patterns, respond to them, and keep moving.
I love that because that perfectly captures not knowing what's coming, but being prepared that change is on the horizon. Like that's super important. I don't want to get bogged down in like the anxiety of it all, because it is definitely stressful. But there's also what I'm noticing as well is they're putting limitations on the GPTs like as we move. Like they're really using the drug dealer model, right? Like they want you to get addicted, and it's gonna start being like capped, where if you want the best access, it's gonna cost you a hell of a lot of money. And you're even noticing with the changes like week over week how I even find like how it answers, or like how it's trying to pause and it's not giving me the response, and it's trying to push me to like give delivery dates like a week or 2 weeks later, so that you're not just consuming an insane amount of energy. Like there are changes that are also coming and being implemented. And like all industries, the best time to get involved is in the beginning, because it helps you chart those waves.
Let me say it simply to people who are listening. I think you should be spending 2 hours a day on ChatGPT or a language learning model to learn it, because I think for the first time in history, we're going to think of writing. Like when writing was invented, it was transformative for the human species, but only a few people could write, and it could only be disseminated. There was no printing press.
Yeah.
So it was actually a slow change. It was powerful, but it couldn't be multiplied at a level. The printing press is seen as the biggest thing, the last biggest thing to happen to us, right? Because it allowed us to print books en masse.
Allows to convey information across territories
But today, with AI,
en masse.
you're going to see people who are 1,000x more capable than people who aren't using it. It's not just going to be 10x or double. It's going to be 1,000x. You're going to use that software we talked about. You're going to be able to create apps, websites, move at such a pace if you're skilled at it. And so if you're not investing in that, you could be one of the people who are left behind. So whatever industry you're in, you need to understand this, and you need to be working with people who understand it so you can move fast.
Yeah, it is true. I also think too, like this whole idea on like these video-based avatars, I actually think they're gonna have their like time, and it's gonna kind of expire, because ultimately consuming content only from an AI avatar is extremely limiting for what humans actually look for. Like there's no drama, there's no tea. You can't like see them dating someone in real life. You can't buy a ticket to go to their show. You can't hire them.
I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree with you there, because what I've been hearing from some of the people who are running the big podcasts is that they're doing beta tests now where they're using video avatars with the same audio from their live one, and they put it out, and it has the exact same engagement. So the avatar version of the three people
No, but
talking,
it doesn't. No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the avatarization of real people isn't going to be a massive opportunity. It's that creating only an AI avatar that didn't have a real person counterpart is not going to be the future. Deepfakes is a real scary problem and issue that we're going to have to like counteract with some form of like a blockchain verification technology.
I'm still going to have to go ahead and disagree with you. I think the next god in our society is going to be an AI avatar that's created. No, but listen, if you can create that, a god where people worship an AI avatar.
No, because God at present doesn't exist on Earth.
Okay.
Right? Like
I didn't know we were having a geography discussion.
No, but I agree with you that we're going to have like AI deities because it's an ominous thing that's responding to you that doesn't exist. That's what religion is built on.
Okay, wait for those comments. Let's go.
No, but that's you don't like show up on a Tuesday and go for coffee
2 billion
with
people
God.
that God doesn't exist.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's one-sided relationship from a carbon perspective, like from a carbon relationship.
Yeah, no, the AI avatar is more like a cult leader that you can follow in present time.
Yes,
as opposed to historical. I understand what you're saying.
My point is like. Are we going to have all these like podcast hosts and like these social media presence where like you're consuming a bunch of their information and it's not a real person? Like probably they'll have a lot of followers, but that isn't really like the real fear for like taking over your wedding planning business. You know, like it's because you want a physical wedding planner at your physical wedding in real life. But like a lot of the work from a wedding plan, like a wedding planner isn't going to need 5 assistants. Like she can scale all of the planning.
Although I believe AI avatar doctors are going to replace family physicians.
Totally. But there's still going to be a ton of people that want to go in person to show them their elbow.
Sure.
You know, like
I
it's
guess so, yeah.
there is still going to be a lot of that. Like the point is like there's just like a lot of anxiety around it opposed to like adopting this, like this is the best use of time for you to learn and to like level up with, because it's going to be a massive division of the populace. People who use AI and people who resisted AI.
Creativity is the new currency. If you can be creative, you can do wonderful things. If you're a rule follower in a big agency, pack your bags.
Well, you're just going to be like strapping yourself into your metaverse pod and you're living in the 50s, whatever that movie is, and I can never remember the name. So important for movies to have well-branded name.
If the name is too long, it's hard to remember. It's like a business.
Or if it's too obscure.
The best business names are short names.
It shows you though, like how the power of having a like name brand actor, because the first thing I typed in was Harry Styles movies. You know what I mean? Like the name of someone is such an anchor point. It's a brand. Don't Worry, Darling, which has nothing to do with the concept of the movie.
Well, a little bit in that it's kind of placating a type of Stepford wife, but Don't Worry, Darling just doesn't stand out from, it sounds like 100 other movies from the 50s till now.
It's not that movie. Like, it's not the difference for that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2, TV commercials. So we were watching the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are going strong in their second round, and we had to watch TV commercials. And it's interesting because we're in advertising, we're in branding, and we should, from like what we do in our daily jobs, because we're so invested in this, love watching TV commercials. I would rather watch paint dry than watch current TV commercials.
I would rather stick a fork in my eye.
Dull butter knife.
Okay.
Because they're just, I actually feel like
they're made for lunatics.
It annoys me for the one every 12 brands that actually invest in the commercial being like a good commercial, because I feel like the reality is like the good commercial is actually being missed if like every other commercial is just like so bad, because it makes you not want to watch commercials at all, and the people that are like watching commercials are just plugged into the metaverse.
No, they're paying $1 million for a piece of crap written by a DEI committee that doesn't understand how to message.
No, it's actually trying to like brainwash the populace of like, don't ask questions, don't, like, you can't say that this is a bad ad because we've checked every single box, and by you criticizing the validity of this ad, you are a bad person.
I don't even know if it really takes seriously their target market audience, because I could kind of think of some examples, but let's say it's Cracker Barrel. Right? Like the whole ad would be East Indian and Chinese people. It's like,
it was in Canada.
It's for crackers. Yeah. Like it's for white, you know what I mean? But like every commercial, it's like, okay, we got a black father, we got a white mother, and then we got an Indian, an East Indian. Like it's just a cornucopia of diversity, which is fine, but it's not reflective of what society really is or what your target market is. And you're just distracted by all of the social virtue signaling messages that are getting in the way of the product or the message.
They're trying to put political, it's hard to hear this as like a snapshot without us like being able to play the array of commercials. There's a gap from like what we're seeing versus what we're saying.
This is all over people are like, I cannot watch a TV commercial without being inundated with multiracial families. But
the Canadian commercials are worse. Like they're worse from a perspective.
Not that England and Scotland disastrous right now.
But they're worse from the perspective of the commercial has nothing to do with the brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the criticism is. The criticism isn't in, we have a very multicultural country. Yeah. We're very celebratory of, we call them new Canadians. We don't call them immigrants. This is not everyone needs to look the exact same and be white. It's that where advertising is going is truly virtue signaling. It has nothing to do with the brand, which is ruining brands. And it's what's also showing you why these big agencies are useless, because they're just trying to exercise their political correctness, not what's most important for the brand. For example, there's this commercial right now being aired for TikTok.
We should find out who did that commercial.
It's for TikTok Canada.
Yeah.
And it's two large individuals who I have no idea what they do for TikTok. And it's this like podcast of them talking about how amazing TikTok is. It's made by Canadians. It's run by Canadians. It's for Canadians. Like TikTok is a app made in China by, effectively by the state run by the Chinese government. It is in a massive contention right now with the U.S. government because it's been proven to be spying on people's phones. And the ad that they're running is that it's by Canadians for Canadians. And it's a Canadian, like,
I think this is where it gets nefarious, because what TikTok is best at is its AI algorithms know how to kind of trap the human mind in distraction. And that's a very good quote that I think I'm going to use again. So the AI algorithm is trapping human minds in distraction, and I think it's resulting in humans being unintellectualized. They can't really analyze any issues. And then so you run a commercial with two people who look like they may have been fired from Starbucks for being too woke. Do you know what I mean? And then telling
you're not wrong.
no, and then
You're not
telling
wrong.
people that TikTok is made by Canadians for Canadians. It's like the power of virtue signaling, kind of doing what you're told from a social engineering signaling perspective, overrides like our critical thinking to say, well, wait a second, what's going on here? First of all, it's not Canadian. Second of all, why are these people talking to me about TikTok?
No, but it's also just like, what's the so what, right? Like if you're trying to connect with business owners to get onto TikTok, there's an entirely different strategy, message, and position for that ad. The point being is Canada tends to be more behind than the United States for like adopting technology, adopting trends. And there's a lot of business owners that could really benefit from from going on to TikTok. We also don't have a lot of the features and such that the US TikTok, but it doesn't matter. Like they need to see the numbers to roll out the investment in the programs. But they're not doing it.
I'm just I get agitated because it's all about TikTok is diverse. TikTok is for Canadians. It's like that message means more than saying, if you're a small business owner, this is how TikTok can double your revenue. Like these agencies, whenever your advisors have more control over your strategy and they have their own agenda, because I feel like these are all agency driven campaigns from people who are living in this ESG world, and they're just ruining brands with nonsense. But we saw it 3 times in the hockey game, and every time we're like, what the F is this commercial?
It actually just makes me genuinely angry because it's taking such an important opportunity and like real money that could be used for like a million other things to just really exert power. The whole point of why TikTok became the largest app is it's basically whatever you like. So it's like when you go on TikTok, you're going to have a very different algorithm than what I'm going to see on TikTok. That entire commercial is like, you can't like anything other than what we're talking about right now. And if you like anything outside of this space, and if you see TikTok as if you question that it's not a Canadian app, that maybe the TikTok Canada office is obviously run by people in Canada, because why would the TikTok Canada office be run by people in...
They ignored it's the greatest source of OnlyFans revenue. You know what I mean? To make it look like it's like
so bad. It's so bad. And then also,
but then we went. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, but then we went on to the Heinz commercial.
That's what I was gonna say. Actually, yeah. So then the Heinz commercial came out, which I guess is Heinz Canadian?
Can we set up? No,
Heinz is not
no,
Canadian.
it's not.
No.
But Heinz has plants here. But let's set up, because I think we had both read a book, and we're in love with the Heinz ad. There's a famous Heinz ad.
It was in the Ogilvy book.
Yeah, we'll put it up. Ogilvy is the G of original agencies. They've gone woke. But this ad is so fantastic at making the audience fill in the missing detail in a powerful way.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the one with the French fries, and it doesn't actually show the ketchup.
I'm just, you know what? It's definitely my trash side. I just live for mayonnaise, white sauce all the way.
But what we saw was a focus on why your product was worth buying, right? Heinz, there are no other kinds, right? It was, and the commercial on TV was just a complete departure from that.
It was literally, again, it was another like virtue signaling festival of just all these different people that may or may not work at Heinz, like trying to make it like it's a Canadian. But this is also too like a huge push because of what's happening in the news right now, where everything is like, let's make things that were never had gluten in it gluten free. So like things that, were just because of the whole like frustration with the US and Canada. So like they're now just making every angle.
But it's not just Canada that's doing this. It's all over America. It's all over Ireland, Scotland, England. It's not just Canada. So I see it in every...
I'm saying the way that they're positioning, like the whole commercial was that it's like they're grown in Petrolia, Ontario, the tomatoes, and like the people that they like go to barbecues on the weekend, and she shows people that she filled that bottle because she works at the factory plant, and it like...
So I think what it's reflecting is a movement away from the product and why the product is amazing to, hey, look at how virtuous we are. We grow this here. Look at our people that are diverse. Like I imagine, and if anybody's working in these big companies, I know in some of them, having consulted for them, they have a DEI, a diversity, equity, inclusion committee that sits on major decision points for advertising and branding. And they're having a disproportionate effect on how they're building a brand. So they're saying, if we're going to do a commercial, they'll be right there saying this commercial has to show every gender and every ethnicity within 100 miles and put that on the commercial. But that messaging takes over. It takes away from the brand. Like there was nothing really about the product or why it was great.
Well, that's the exact point that we need to make, because we're totally going to get misquoted on the first part, because the real issue is they're moving away from good marketing is selling the brand, it's selling the product. Current marketing is selling an ideology. And that is why this is so problematic, is that I don't have to agree with the ideology that you're putting out there, especially when your goal is to sell a bottle of fucking ketchup. So the point is like, I want you to be marketing your ketchup. I don't want you to be selling me what your perspective is on society at present, because then that's what now gets the majority of people stuck. They don't feel like they can say anything. They don't want to push the boundaries. They don't want to rock the boat. So they just continue to move with this like vague cloud of status quo where we don't really know what anyone stands for. We don't feel like we can talk about anything, but we're not selling the thing.
And how are you differentiating when every agency is doing the same thing?
No, but you're
Like-
not differentiating.
Like every company can be doing the same
And where does it
diversity
go?
thing. Like is it not about your product, or
But
is it
it-
about
but-
that you're more
but what's the
obedient
point?
to
Like,
societal's?
what are we celebrating? That people no longer see race? We get married to who we want to get married to. We've got kids that are different. Like you've got mixed race kids. Like it's normal.
10 years ago, when I would go to downtown New York or more downtown Toronto, because Toronto has always been very diverse
Yeah.
and happy, but I literally didn't see race. Like if somebody came in who was black or somebody came in who was Asian, like we were just all Torontonians, like high level Torontonians. But the last 10 years has seen such a focus on race that now everywhere you just can't help but see it in every business position. Like it's leading to questioning why everybody is there, what's going on. Like I think the society has moved to be identifying people more. Like I'm seeing race way more than I ever saw it before. And I don't know if it's good for society, but I know it's bad for brands.
Well, the problem though with the race piece is that Toronto is a really special city. So is New York for that reason, right? And there's needed to be a movement, because most cities and most places haven't had that level of acceptance, which has been a very good thing. And I'm glad that has happened. And there's a massive place for ensuring that we have children that grow up that are understanding of that, just like the way we were being raised in Toronto. Like I feel the same way. My dad grew up in Africa. Like the family joke is he would dress me up in like African garb to go to like wear your culture to work day.
Are you saying you wore blackface?
No, I wore like a cool little like African dress.
So you culturally appropriated a race.
No, my dad grew up in Africa,
Just,
so that
just,
was.
Just put in the comments, cancel, please.
Oh my goodness.
Cultural
But
appropriation.
my point of this is that it's not relevant to selling ketchup, or that TikTok was made in China.
Well, when you put the product in the back seat, you can't differentiate. Heinz has been known as the best ketchup. What I would be doing, or if we had been hired by Heinz, is we'd be saying not only have we been the best selection for fries and burgers for your whole life, but create a new market. Like say we're amazing on eggs. You know what I mean? Like try to create a new market with the same angle of the fries and what the ketchup would be on. Like
To me, the big point is like we're moving away to becoming more healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole idea is like I would be tapping into treat culture, like for when you have fries, make it count.
And it's almost gone so far as they're deliberately, it's not as bad as the Bud Light, but they're almost deliberately putting on commercials that don't speak to the audience. Like it's a UFC commercial, like they're not really speaking to the hockey players
At all.
Fans,
At
right?
all.
Like it's
The only one that was actually good was the Moors one. The Moors ad was actually quite good.
exceptional.
And it was about like
That should be on
sweating.
Hot or Not.
Yeah, we were like basically men sweating at
In
like
suits.
summer weddings, and they like
Yeah.
created this special like sweat wicking fabric, and
Yeah.
they call it like
So it was a men's formal attire store called Moore's, which has done very well because they know their target audience.
And that's
They don't
totally
put
who's
chiseled
watching,
face.
though.
They don't put
Yeah.
chiseled face millennials on it. They put the guy who's got to put on a suit, who's like a contractor, and you just like the guy, right?
It's not even though it's like not. It's not even. It's just generic.
yeah.
Like it's just generic men. Like it was a very well done commercial because like that's specifically who's, and it wasn't overly complicated. They didn't create a crazy storyline. It's like, when are the most amount of weddings in Canada? In the summer. What happens at summer weddings? Well, men sweat and they're sweating in a suit, especially a suit that's not expensive. So they came out with this sweat wicking fabric, and that speaks to the core pain point of all the men that are watching hockey that have 7 weddings this summer because, or they've got prom this summer or wherever they are in life, right? Like that was very well done.
So that was hot. The other 2 commercials, big nuts.
There was just so many knots, but the TikTok one, man, like, can you imagine the boardroom of like, let's try to position TikTok as made in
Canadian.
Canada.
Yeah.
Like, what?
By baristas who were fired for being too woke.
That was hilarious. All right. So, I mean, I guess we kind of really talked about why this whole anti-fragile movement needs to happen. And we are really leaning into it. And that's why you tune in. And I don't expect you to be as brash, but there is something to learn about or to talk about anti-fragileness. And this is a fantastic book that really could be a TED Talk. So if you want like the short summary is like,
It's pretty good, but
it's a good book, but it's like, it's a book.
Nassim Taleb, but it's what, and it goes counter to what everything has happened in the last 10 years in society, because what's happened in society in the last decade is be fragile. If somebody is rude to you, have a breakdown. Like everything about what we've been creating in people.
That's not the message. The message
No,
is...
Can I finish?
Yeah.
It is the message. Let me say.
Okay. All right.
It's been, people have become fragile and weak, but Anti-Fragile says you must be able to deal with black swan events, with events that you're not expecting. But if you don't build up resilience through struggle, through friction points, when a bad event happens, you are going to be dusted. And that's going to happen in industries and businesses and professions, right? So all of the messaging we've been getting in the last 10 years, especially to some of the younger generations, be fragile. Feel like you're entitled.
That's not the message. But it's
okay.
it's
Will you
the
tell us what you
outcome.
think the message is?
The message has been, don't keep things bottled up, right? Like express your perspective, express your opinions, express your emotions, like be you. That's more the message. And
From who?
Society.
Okay, so we might have a different opinion. I don't think that's the message. I think we have created a victim economy in which there's whole industries that are making tens and hundreds of millions of dollars by creating additional subcategories of victims. We now have 24 letters of the alphabet in the flag.
Okay, but
And that's not the way to survive a bad event. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to work through struggle and setbacks and recessions. And brands can help you get through that if you build a good brand.
You can't tie fragility though to to that movement. Like the point of what you're speaking to that requires a better explanation is that there is a push to being you, whatever that looks like, and expressing your emotions, your opinions, and your feelings. And with that inch, there's been a mile that's been taken, and that there is a massive gap of where now business and brand owners don't think any of these things are wrong per se on the face of it.
So are you saying that society in the last 10 years hasn't encouraged people to get 100 times the amount of trauma dogs and therapy dogs and survivor dogs?
Society isn't telling me to get a trauma dog. No.
They're
Trauma
making
dogs,
it okay to do it if somebody hurts your feelings.
They're allowing avenues
not-
and channels for people who want to pursue, and there's more people that are pursuing
Which
it.
is not resilience.
That's not the conversation on the brand owner or the business owner, right? Like what business owners are struggling with is they've tried to pander to a ton of different emotions and opinions. The internet is overwhelming. You don't want to be canceled. You don't want to talk about what you care about. You've been trained and raised to not talk about politics and sex and all these different controversial topics. And brand owners now have diluted brands that can't do anything in the market.
I think you're going off the topic a little bit. The resilience element for brands and businesses from a coaching perspective is we often tell people, like, if 80% of your business comes from 2 clients or 1 client, you're vulnerable, right? And so you're not anti-fragile if you rely on only 1 or 2 clients for all of your business.
Sure, but that's not fragility.
Right.
That's also reliance. And we need to talk about that too, especially with the potential TikTok ban. Fragility is...
You're arguing with me over what fragility is?
Fragility is not...
Fragility is you break easy.
Yes.
That's called fragile.
Yes.
So if you're super sensitive to criticism, comments, setbacks, market changes, you're fragile.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
But that's
Resilient.
not also the over-reliance on TikTok. That's not really fragility. You're stretching the
Well, fragility
definition.
is if you're on one platform only and that platform shuts down, you're not resilient.
Yeah, but you're stretching the definition. What you said,
Where did I stretch it?
because what you said before is more relevant. Business owners that are too afraid to be themselves, where they're too afraid to exercise and make decisions that make sense for their customers.
I think the point you're saying is you can't become resilient and tough unless you get criticized.
Yeah.
And so if you live a life to not be criticized, you are not going to become a resilient brand. You're going to be a fragile brand.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to please everybody. So you have to encourage yourself to get out there and get criticism, feedback, fall down, scrape a knee, by analogy for your business, so that you can become resilient. But too many businesses are like, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to reach into here. And so when you have a big hit, you're going to be very fragile.
I mean, you brought up a good point. I don't agree that it's fragility, but I do agree that having an over-reliance on platforms, especially with how fragile the social media landscape is right now.
Boom.
But one of the things we're going to talk about in the news segment is that the TikTok ban is being extended, right? And TikTok has been very odd, and it was a big wake-up call for us because TikTok was our main platform. It was the easiest to get started on. It felt the less like I wasn't like ruining my brand on Instagram for the people that knew me initially. So like it was the safest. From a social embarrassment standpoint, it was the easiest from a best algorithm standpoint. But I'd never really watched a platform like come and go like that, especially when like at the rate that it was, like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, they've stuck around. And it just shows you that everything in the world right now is fragile, right? And being over-reliant on anything is stupid. And we've been working with amazing business coach who we're going to be doing actually a segment, an in-person session in Austin.
And Dallas. Yeah.
And Dallas. There's more to come, but those are the first ones that are being announced. We're thinking it's going to be June 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. But we're going to be doing a business branding and leadership masterclass. It's like an 8:30 to 12 segment. So come if you'd like to come. But we were talking with him, and his name is Glenn. And he was explaining to us that like there's a lot of businesses where 80% of your income can come from
one supplier, one
to
customer,
20%, right? Like the reverse of the Pareto, and how risky that is for your business's longevity. And there's never a convenient time to fix that when like the money is good. But there's like one of my favorite JFK quotes is the best time to fix a leaky roof is on a sunny day, because when it's raining, you don't want to fix it. I'm sure that was obvious to most people, but I just wanted to give my ad-lib storytelling.
That was JFK. I think it was Jack Black and Nacho Libre.
It wasn't. It was JFK.
Okay, I'm gonna verify that.
Okay.
Let's move on to founder personal brands.
Okay, cool. So we can talk about founder brands and why they matter. I mean, we really touched on it kind of in the early segment, but like the core piece of this is it's actually not about visibility. And that's what most people miss, is they think that personal branding is about being visible, being findable. There's this egotistic element to it. It's actually about credibility. And if you don't have a personal brand in the current age, you are not credible because you're not verifiable. And it's not about direct ROI of posting and getting the bump. It's about showing up so that when someone is deciding to hire your business, they can verify that you're the right person for the job.
People don't want to buy from nameless corporations with high advertising budgets anymore. They want to know the story behind the brand. And the story behind the brand, just like in any great book or movie, there's a hero. And that hero is the personal brand of the founder.
It's not even about hero to me, it's character. Yeah. There's a character to that story.
That explains why they care about your X, and that's why they created this Y.
Well, you're talking about founder brands, which is more of like the Sarah Blakely, the Elon Musk, the Gary Vee. To me, when I think of founder brands that are more relatable, it's more of kind of like the Emma Grede, right? She's running right now Good American. She runs Skims. She's works with the Kardashians, but she's a very different story. She grew up with a single mom in East London. She's mixed race. She's like now running multiple billion-dollar brands, and she's got a personal brand as a founder that's very relatable, that like you can connect with. She shows the behind the scenes. She's very much not Kardashianified, and she to me is a perfect example of you also should have a personal brand even if you're not this like incredible thought leader, mad scientist founder.
In today's world, it's the cheapest and most effective way to showcase your brand is to have somebody have a spokesperson for it.
Totally.
And generally, the spokesperson should be the founder. But if it's not the founder, find the right person to be the spokesperson for it. So there is a human element to your brand.
You need to have somebody attached to your brand, whether it's like employee generated content, whether it's user generated content, whether it's founder generated content. And truly, it's probably more likely all of the above. Like, you need to have a solid mix that's like invested in like who actually works there. Not just like paid actors to do these crazy big commercials, because when you even think about the brands that you like the most when you go to the store, like Siete chips, when you turn around the back of the bag and you can see that family, like their real family photo, you just feel better eating the food. Mm-hmm. Like it's, and I don't even.
Than Lay's.
Than
like,
Lay's.
The market has shifted. So if you're a founder, you need to start creating a personal brand right now in order to be anti-fragile as well.
I have a really interesting quote that I wanted to get your thoughts on. So Emma Grade was just actually on Diary of a CEO, and her controversial take that kind of blew up on the internet is she said, work-life balance isn't the responsibility of the employer, it's the responsibility of the individual. Isn't that crazy that that's controversial?
Okay, so I guess it is, because you find your own work-life balance, but the brand or the culture of the company kind of affects that as well, right? Because the people who work at Tesla for the most part love it, but they don't have much work-life balance. Like at SpaceX either, right?
But that's what she's kind of saying. Like, the expectation isn't on the employer to provide that. It's like the job is going to lay out the requirements of the job. It's your job as the individual to decide, one, do you want to work there? Do you like that culture? Are you committed to that mission? And if not, move on, do your thing.
Well, that's where the personal brand of the founder is external to the customer and also internal to the people there. Right? Because there are some people I've worked with who I loved working hard for because they made me feel proud to be part of it. There are some people who tried to make us work hard you freaking hated.
Yeah.
Right? So that personal brand element is a new element of leadership as well. Like, you have to be known for something.
All right, Philip.
Yes.
Let's move on to In the News.
Yeah.
So I want to do a quick segment here in the news. So as we chatted about, the TikTok ban is still set to June 19th. President Donald Trump has come out and said that he will extend the ban if he has to, but he is hoping that the app can find a U.S. person to purchase it. Do you have any insight on this? Have you heard anything? Is there any rumbling still if it's going to be Microsoft?
I have no idea what's going to happen with TikTok. I think a lot of it is some distraction by some politicians. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen with TikTok. I just know that the consumers want TikTok in the U.S., so it should stay there. But we just announced a trade deal, and it didn't really mention TikTok.
Well, our trade deal has nothing to do with TikTok because TikTok in Canada is not being...
U.S.-Canada trade deal. Sorry, U.S.-China trade deal was just announced.
And
it was huge,
TikTok,
and they didn't really talk about TikTok.
Interesting. All right. Well, there's another update today that I'm going to explain. It's called TikTok the Pulse, and this is actually really good for business owners. So TikTok adds new tools to Pulse Core to give brands more placement options. So TikTok has expanded its Pulse suite with a new feature called Pulse Core. Pulse Core now offers 4 ad placement options tied to top performing user content and cultural trends. Basically, it's allowing you to publish like ads with your publishing partners. So brands can now place ads next to curated high performing content on TikTok using generative AI tools. So like if you've got like a great piece of content that's performing for the brand, like if F1 paid us to do like a segment today, up next would come like an F1 ad. So it would hire that like rule of 7. TikTok also introduced a new on and off platform sponsorship solution. So basically they're doubling down on generating more ad revenue because TikTok wasn't predominantly in the beginning focused on ad revenue. So this is showing you a move that TikTok is becoming a better ad partner. We have a ton of clients that use the TikTok tools and it is a nightmare. So this shows you a move of them really trying to become more profitable, which shows a potential more positive future for TikTok because why would they be doubling down on monetization if they weren't sticking around?
We have an Instagram TikTok battle going on.
Yes,
right?
There is very much.
For video content. Meta has recognized it.
Yeah, and for ad placement.
But you know what's odd is I find with a lot of our clients, everybody's following the Instagram metric. But then the calls are coming in off of Facebook because you can post them, they get posted on both. But I just find more and more clients are getting their calls from Facebook, even though everybody is fixated on the Instagram metrics.
Well, it depends what kind of a business you are. If you're a local brick and mortar, right?
No,
Like
we
that's-
just had one yesterday. Totally never would have thought. I think people are very ignorant as to how good Facebook is because Instagram makes them feel cooler. Facebook doesn't seem cool. And words speak, data screams. And that's why you always want to look at your data and not your preconceptions.
Well, Facebook is a really underutilized place for attention right now. But there are also, though, a lot of businesses where it's not as strategic, right? Because Facebook tends to skew. You're not wrong, though. Like,
No, I think you're arguing from a previous position and not recognizing new data. Like saying Facebook skews to older, like it's true, but I'd see the data. But the calls that are coming into some clients from Facebook, from Instagram videos, is quite impressive these days.
Facebook, people are using Facebook also truthfully, and people aren't talking about this, more people are using Facebook Marketplace, right? Like we're in a down economy. It's a very fantastic way to
become
buy
the
and
best
sell
buy and
used
sell.
things. And when you're on Facebook Marketplace, you're on Facebook. So like I even find myself like more likely to like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I had that person on Facebook. Like let me click their stories. Like, so you're not wrong.
And I found myself doom scrolling on their shorts, which are really Instagram reels. Like, so when you're going through Facebook now, they have the shorts, right? Just like YouTube shorts. But the Facebook shorts are Instagram reels. And I found myself, I got caught on it and I was scrolling and I was like, this was an amazing set of videos. So.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And then lastly, Pinterest has had massive ban issues for the last month. It's been shutting down a ton of accounts. They're really not coming out and speaking as to why, but there is a ton of backlash. And there's because they've rolled out new community guidelines and they have like bots that are, I guess, like scrolling them, but they're not communicating why they're shutting them down. So Pinterest is in the hot seat right now. And they just launched actually this week another AI generative tool that effectively allows you to like shop pinned content on Pinterest, which is like a big move for being more shoppable, because what sucks about Pinterest is that anything that's an ad on Pinterest, you can't pin it. So where they really messed up is like if you're selling your shirt and you push ads on like male dress shirts on Pinterest, I can't pin your shirt to my pin board if I'm like doing a inspo for shopping. So it's like annoying because like you can't use the ad in like, because like the ad is fleeting, like it could disappear. So this is a big move because you can now shop content. So anyone that has a CPG brand, consider this move because Pinterest just launched it this week. So those are the breakdowns in socials. And then let's do hot or not.
Today's hot or not is not just on ad campaigns, it's on personal brands. So we wanted to do a little bit of an assessment on personal brands, what's hot, what's not, who's killing it, who's shitting the bed.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about Blake Lively because she has been under fire this past year, and we have not talked about her. She has not been in our hot seat.
No, and I think she is colloquially shitting the bed on her personal brand.
I think she really actually ruined her brand. I think in the short term, that pocket in LA like doesn't want to not pick her, but I think that she'll slowly start not getting callbacks in the coming years because it doesn't look good.
Well, if you think the roles now, like her roles were being this kind of larger than life female, right? Who was joyous and happy and gorgeous. And what happened with the Baldini lawsuit, it just makes it have this taste of nobody wants to be around her. Like it seems, what I tell people sometimes when they're asking me about big decisions is I always ask them, like, have you considered the law of unintended consequences?
Yeah.
Like, if you do this, even though it will make you feel good here, what are some of the things that could go wrong? And not enough people kind of war game. What could go wrong if I do this?
Yeah.
And her going after Baldini, who was somebody with less power, who's somebody she was actually bullying on the set to take it over, right? And the stories that are coming out, she kind of thought, well, I'm supposed to be the one with no power because I'm Y. But then in the end, it looks like she's being the bully and that she's got caught up in her own fame. And most people don't like that.
This is obviously like an Icarus story to me. You know, like it's she just got too big for her britches, and how many times do you think this has happened that she just hasn't been called out for?
So Icarus is I don't know if it was Greek or Roman,
Greek, yeah.
right? Where the guy built his wings, glued them with wax, and flew so high towards the sun that it melted. And then he fell and died. So it's people getting a little bit too big for their situation and then kind of self-destructing because they flew too close to the sun. I don't know if it happened because I thought her and Ryan seemed like a nice, happy couple. Like before this happened, I saw their brand as two happy, funny people who seemed to love each other. Like the PR showed them being gentle, seeing uncelebrity, right? And that was the brand that I liked about them. And as they were evolving, but then it seemed like in this case they became very almost mommy dearest bullying, which nobody likes that person. Like, so I don't know where this really came from, but it's destroying her brand.
My perspective on him actually has also really changed. I can't really see him the same way, but I also don't understand his role in this. Like, I don't know why.
I think he was jealous. Like Baldini's a gorgeous man, and their dancing scenes were very intimate. Like it looked like they were flirting, like what we've seen from the lawsuit, right? And when it looks like she's flirting with him and he's flirting with her, and then all of a sudden your husband is getting upset, well, you're going to say, oh no, this guy's harassing me. Like, but when we saw the videos that have come out from the lawsuit, she looks like she's really flirting with the guy. So I think that's where this came out of. It's like,
But isn't he gay?
I don't believe he is.
You said Justin Baldini was gay.
I did not. I never said that. I said he's gay because otherwise I'll get knocked off the best looking man. And
No, you told me that he's gay.
he may have seemed a little bit.
No, he didn't seem at all gay
No,
to me. You just
no,
said
no.
that
On
he was gay.
on his voice notes that he left her,
Yeah.
you know, like where he was like falling all over himself, apologizing, saying, you know, that was a little bit. I don't think so, but I think that's why Ryan was very sensitive to anything that was going on.
But like they're actors. Like this shit happens all the time. Like you have to have like flirt. You have to kind of fall in love with the person you're with because you have to like fake it on screen.
Yeah,
like
but they also often hook up
yeah, I know.
when they're married. So like, but he was in charge of the movie, right? And she came on and took it over. And it was one of those things where she was using power against him and then hits him with a lawsuit because it was coming out that she was being a bully.
Yeah.
Right. And then his lawyer, who I'd love to have on my podcast at some point, because that guy came out like a rogue lawyer. Like he just said, you want to do this?
Here's
He's
all
like,
the texts.
you want
Here's
to do
everything.
this? Boom. I'm not scared of you. I'm going to dump it out there. And I've seen that in lawsuits, even ones I'm in, where they think you can threaten that. Like, you want to go to war? It's total war. It's the only way to beat a bully is to go total war. And her advisors destroyed $1 billion brand,
Yeah.
I think. And that it goes to the point of, this actually is related to another lawsuit. Your advisor could be destroying you, right? Because they're just blowing smoke up your ass. And I've had it happen to me, and it's happening to other people I know, and it happened to Blake Lively. They're blowing smoke up your ass, telling you how great you are, telling you everything is amazing, but they're doing things for their own purpose. And I see a lot of CEOs in that situation, professionals in that situation, and it can ruin your brand if you don't have somebody who you trust to say, stop, you're going too far. People are scared of saying no to you. You're not being well served.
No, you're totally right. And I think the lesson to learn from this is, well,
I think there was a little overconfidence that you can just claim sexual harassment and you're going to win, right? Like, I think that's where her lawsuit came out of. I think people around her said you can just claim it and then it's going to win. But in the end, there was enough hard evidence to show it wasn't happening that she's going to lose.
but what's the personal brand takeaway from this?
The personal brand takeaway is when you become successful, don't fall in love with your own press.
Yeah.
Right? Have people around you. Have that friend or trusted advisor who can come up and goes, look, man, you're way out of line. But what happens, you get drunk on your own power, and then it encourages sycophants to come in who are saying pleasant words to you, but they're just draining your resources. And in the end, your brand will suffer while they take your resources.
I would say, though, that it's harder to think that you're Blake Lively because she's now an unlikable person. But I think what you're saying is 2 levels deeper than that, that it's you need to make sure that you don't have yes men around you that are going to lead you into a place that you can't turn back from.
And it happens in industries, right? You become the top restaurant in a city, right? Or you become the top X in your market. And then you're ready to scale to 100 million a year, but you're like 5 million a year, but then you start believing all the sycophants around you. So just be very aware of the advice you're getting when you're building a personal brand.
I think the better takeaway, though, is you can't be cancelable when you're being yourself, when you're being authentic. If you make an error in like saying something or you're misinformed or like you do something that comes from a good place, but it's not like a character flaw, you're going to be fine because it will course correct. People have got a 15-minute attention span, like you're good to go. Where you can't come back from is, well, 1, character flaws, but 2, using outdated mechanisms, like these old school like PR tactics where like you're being positioned as something and then it comes out that you're not like that. And that's why like we criticize so much this whole approach to like the J-Los and the, you know, these old school pop. I had this, actually a really well-known pop star reach out to me, and she's like, she's like, I don't even really know where to start. She was like, I come from that age of like, I was told what to be, who to be, what to look like. And she's like, now the record labels are nowhere to be found. They're like, have a personal brand, go for it. And she's like, I didn't come from this world. And it kind of goes to this piece on Blake Lively. It's like she was a young child star. Like grew up through the ranks. She had old school PR. We don't really know what her and Ryan are like. We liked the image that PR put out, but it's not in line with the actions we're seeing from her. And that's what ruined her brand, is that there's now a disalignment with what we had bought into from a brand perspective, and we now no longer trust her brand, and it doesn't have credibility.
If your brand is that I'm obsessive compulsive about perfection, that can be your brand, but don't have PR make it look like you're a kind, you know, like lax person, right? Like the brand has to be authentic.
Or you're like this messy, like chill, like surfer person. Like that there's incongruency with that. And then when we don't know what to expect, when that trust and credibility erodes, like, right, a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Like, what I now want to say about Blake Lively is not what we all know about Blake Lively.
But after the movie, all the people who watched it, they started saying the things about her when she wasn't in the room that got out. And that's where your advisors may tell you it's a good idea to get into a prolonged lawsuit. Like, you can make a splash, but it's a prolonged lawsuit, right? So it's not a 15-minute attention span thing. Like when she launches a big lawsuit against Baldini, it's not just that one headline, because his lawyer realized that he gets a headline turn, and now you're going to have discovery, and then you're going to have an Amber Heard moment on the stand, right? It's not good strategy. She should never, ever, ever have done that lawsuit.
But is it going to go to court like this?
Yeah. He countersued for $400 million, Baldini. She sued. It's going to be Johnny.
It's civil. It's going to be on the stand?
Yeah.
Wow.
Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's was civil.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I just want to pay to watch the cross-examination, because I'll get another 1 million views just ripping apart what's going on that.
Okay, Philip.
2 million, sorry.
His name is Baldoni also.
What did I say? What did I call it?
Like everything but.
I call it Baldoni.
Baldini.
Baldoni. Why don't you tell me how to define fragile again?
Well, thanks everybody for listening to Art of the Brand for another week. We'll see you next week. Please share this if you liked it, because sharing is the golden metric.